Picture this, it's late at night in a small-town diner. The kitchen is hot, the grill is hissing, and a tired man in a grease-stained apron flips burgers like just another worker. Nobody notices him. Nobody suspects the truth. But what if I told you? That man is John Cena, the legendary champion, secretly working undercover in his very own diner. And what he's about to discover will shock everyone inside those four walls. Because hidden behind the laughter, the gossip, and the smell of coffee lies a secret so powerful, it will change not just one life, but an entire community forever. Backhand index pointing right. Before we dive in, make sure to smash that like button. Hit subscribe for more powerful John Cena stories, and tell us in the comments, where in the world are you watching this from? Because trust me, once you hear what happens tonight, you'll never look at John Cena the same way again. The night shift at Westville Diner was always the same. The hiss of the fryer, the clatter of dishes, the smell of grease clinging to the walls. To anyone walking in, it was just another small-town diner. But behind the counter in the kitchen, a man tied the strings of his faded apron and slid on a pair of worn work gloves. His name tag read Rick. But in reality, that man was John Cena. For the past 3 weeks, Cena had been living a double life. No crowds, no championship belts, no bright lights. Just a line cook in a cramped kitchen. He flipped burgers, scrubbed grills, and burned toast more often than not. To the staff, he was nothing special. Just another new hire trying to keep up. And that's exactly how he wanted it. Cena hadn't bought this diner to sit in an office and collect profits. He bought it to understand it. To see what really happened when the boss wasn't around. His business advisor warned him, if you want to know the truth, don't watch from the top. Work at the bottom. And so he did. Every night, he pulled double shifts, sweating under the heat lamps, listening more than he spoke. And what he found wasn't pretty. Big Joe, the head cook, cut corners whenever the rush hit. Cal, the dishwasher, slipped outside for smoke breaks longer than a lunch break. Rhonda, the senior waitress, had a habit of rounding up bills and pocketing the change. But among them all, one person stood out. Lena Cruz. She wasn't loud. She wasn't flashy. She never gossiped in the break room. Never flirted with customers for extra tips. She was quiet, almost too quiet. She worked with precision, like she had something to prove. And every night, she slid her tips into a small black pouch without saying a word. No bragging, no smiles, just focus. Cena couldn't help but notice her. She was different, almost untouchable. One night, as he stood at the grill wiping sweat from his brow, Cena caught himself staring as Lena glided past with a tray balanced effortlessly in one hand. That black pouch peeked out from her apron. And for the first time, Cena felt a strange tension in the air. Something about her didn't add up. Big Joe barked at him from the other side of the kitchen. Hey, rookie! You gonna flip those patties or write poetry about 'em? Cena snapped out of it, flipping the burgers just a second too late. Grease hissed and spat back at him. He waved the smoke away, muttering under his breath, "Stay sharp. No one can know who you are." Hours later, when the last customer had left and the neon lights buzzed in the empty dining room, Cena stayed behind to scrub the stove. His feet ached. His back throbbed. He hadn't worked a shift this long since his early wrestling days. But he welcomed the pain. It made him feel grounded, human. Then, something unusual happened. As he tossed his rag aside and walked toward the lockers, he noticed Lena's door slightly open. For weeks, he had never once seen it unlocked. She was meticulous, almost obsessively neat. But tonight, the locker sat ajar. Cena hesitated, then reached to close it out of courtesy. His elbow brushed against something heavy on the bench. A duffel bag. It slipped, hit the floor, and unzipped just enough to spill its contents. Cena froze. His breath caught in his chest. Inside were stacks of money, bundles of crisp $100 bills. Not one, not two, but at least a dozen. Enough to fill a safe deposit box. Cena's pulse hammered. His instincts screamed. What was Lena doing with that kind of cash? Drugs? Skimming? A scam? Before he could move, the door creaked open. Cal, the dishwasher, stumbled in, mumbling, "Forgot my phone." He grabbed it and left without even noticing. Cena zipped the bag shut with trembling hands, put it back exactly where it had been, and leaned against the lockers, his heart racing. In that moment, one thought burned through his mind. Lena Cruz isn't who she seems. The clock struck 10:15. The diner had finally gone quiet. Neon signs flickered in the window, and the clatter of dishes gave way to silence. Cena lingered in the locker room, his thoughts spinning. That duffel bag, those stacks of money, haunted him. As he slipped on his jacket, the sound of voices outside caught his attention. Cena slowed his pace, stepping quietly toward the back door. Under the pale glow of a street lamp, Lena stood in the parking lot. Her posture was tense, her face unreadable. And she wasn't alone. A man in a hooded jacket stood across from her. His hands moved in sharp, urgent gestures. She nodded quickly, reached into her coat pocket, and handed him something small. He glanced around, then vanished into the shadows. Cena ducked behind his car, pretending to fumble with his keys. Moments later, Lena walked past, a heavy duffel bag slung casually over her shoulder. She didn't even look at him. It was as if she was carrying nothing more than her purse. But Cena knew better. That night, he lay awake in his modest rented apartment, staring at the ceiling fan turning slowly overhead. His mind replayed the scene again and again. Why would a waitress working double shifts carry that much cash? Who was the hooded man? A dealer? A debt collector? Or something darker? The next morning, Cena slipped back into his Rick disguise. Apron tied, cap pulled low, blending in once again. But as soon as he stepped into the kitchen, he felt the shift. Whispers traveled like smoke. Staff leaned close, muttering, their eyes flicking toward Lena. "Have you noticed her?" Rhonda whispered, sipping from her chipped coffee mug. "Always early. Always writing in that little notebook. You ever wonder why?" Big Joe shrugged the grill. "Maybe she's tracking her tips. Or hiding something," Rhonda said, her voice sharp. "Ever since she started picking up extra shifts, my tips come up short. Just saying." Cena kept his head down, flipping pancakes, but his ears caught every word. At lunch, the gossip spread further. Cal, the dishwasher, cornered Cena by the sink. "I've seen it too, man," Cal muttered. "She takes calls out back. 3 in one shift last week. Always quiet. Always serious. Doesn't sound like no friend to me." Cena's jaw tightened. He wanted to defend her, to believe she was just hardworking, private, misunderstood. But the memory of that duffel bag, those bricks of cash, burned in his mind. By evening, even the regulars noticed. Smiles turned stiff when Lena came by with coffee refills. Conversations dipped when she passed. Her shoulders, once straight with confidence, began to curve inward. She felt it, the weight of suspicion pressing in from every corner. And Cena felt trapped. He wasn't just the boss undercover anymore. He was a man carrying a secret heavier than any championship belt. The question gnawed at him with every passing hour. Backhand index pointing right, is Lena Cruz loyal? Or is she hiding something that could destroy this diner? By midweek, the diner felt different. The sizzling of bacon and the smell of coffee were the same. But the energy had shifted. Every corner carried whispers. Every glance lingered too long. And all of it was pointed in one direction. Lena Cruz. Rhonda, gum snapping between her teeth, leaned against the counter, and muttered just loud enough for others to hear. Third phone call this week. Outback. During her shift. If she thinks nobody notices, she's wrong. Big Joe grunted from the grill. Boss would fire her if he knew. John Cena's hands clenched around the spatula. He wanted to shout at them, to stop the rumors. But he stayed silent, eyes fixed on the sizzling patties. Silence was part of the disguise. And yet, the more he stayed quiet, the more he listened, the heavier the doubts grew in his chest. At the register, a family of regulars left only $5 on a $60 tab. Tommy, the weekend manager, looked puzzled. They always tip 20%, he whispered to Rhonda. Always. But tonight? Barely anything. You think Lena's skimming again? The staff nodded uneasily. The pattern was forming, and Cena knew it. That night, when the rush finally slowed, Lena vanished into the bathroom for nearly 15 minutes. When she returned, her eyes were rimmed red, but she kept working as if nothing had happened. Plates in hand, smile half-hearted, voice steady. Cena couldn't let it go. He followed her outside once, keeping his distance in the shadows near the dumpster. Lena wasn't crying. She was on the phone, her voice low, sharp, serious. Whoever was on the other end wasn't a friend. The conversation had the tone of business, urgent and heavy. When her shift ended, Cena checked the tip logs himself. The math didn't make sense. Every one of Lena's tables had paid in full, but somehow two of the other waitresses were short again. Missing money, missing trust. Back in the dish pit, Cal cornered him, voice hushed. You seen her notebook? Cena stiffened. What notebook? The black one she keeps in her apron, Cal whispered. She writes in it all the time, even when she's not on shift. Full pages, man. That ain't tips. That ain't orders. Looks like accounting. Or something worse. My cousin ran with some dealers once. Same vibe. Quiet. Careful. Always taking notes. Always carrying cash. Cena wanted to dismiss it. Wanted to believe Lena was innocent. But the image of that duffel bag kept coming back. Bundles of hundreds stacked like bricks. The whispers. The late-night calls. The red eyes. Now, even he couldn't deny it. Something was wrong. The staff were circling her like vultures. The customers sensed it too. And Lena herself, she was folding inward under the weight of it all. Cena wiped his hands on his apron, staring at the dark parking lot through the back door. Backhand index pointing right. If I don't step in soon, he thought. This isn't just going to ruin Lena. It's going to destroy the soul of this diner. John Cena had spent too many nights chasing questions in his head. The whispers, the missing tips, the late-night calls, the duffel bag stuffed with cash. It was eating him alive. He was the owner of this diner. Yet he felt more like a spy lost in the fog of his own secrets. Finally, he decided. No more waiting. No more guessing. The next afternoon, Cena stood in front of a modest apartment building. The cracked concrete steps led him to a door marked Unit 2B. He took a deep breath and knocked. For a moment, silence. Then the door cracked open just an inch. Lena's eyes appeared through the gap. Sharp, cautious, almost afraid. "Rick," she whispered, her voice tight. "What are you doing here?" Cena straightened. "We need to talk." A long pause. Then slowly, she opened the door wider. Her small apartment was neat, almost too neat. Clean table, folded blanket, a corkboard with a few photographs. No clutter. No extravagance. Nothing that explained thousands of dollars in cash. Cena stepped inside, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. His voice came out low, steady, but heavy with suspicion. "I saw it," he said. "The duffel bag. In your locker. Bundles of hundreds. And I saw you outside, with that man in the hood." Lena froze. Her face drained of color. For the first time, her mask slipped. She sank onto the edge of the couch, fingers laced tightly together, knuckles white. "You've been watching me," she said softly. "I had to," Cena replied. "I can't run a place on lies. Tell me, Lena, what's going on? Are you stealing? Are you running something?" Her eyes flickered with hurt, deep, raw, human hurt. "You think I'm skimming tips?" she whispered. "That I'm lying to everyone here?" Cena's silence answered louder than any word. Finally, Lena stood, walked to a drawer, and pulled out a stack of folders. She placed them on the table with trembling hands. "Sit," she said. Inside were documents, medical forms, insurance denials, hospital bills. Page after page, stamped with codes and rejection letters. And then a photograph. A man holding a saxophone, smiling mid-laughter. His face handsome once, but scarred now in the more recent papers. "This is Miles," Lena said quietly. "He used to be a musician. 6 years ago, a fire destroyed everything. His apartment, his music, his hands, his face. He's been on the streets ever since. I found him last winter, playing outside a subway entrance. Broken saxophone, burned fingers, but his music, it made me cry." She looked at Cena now, eyes wet but defiant. "I've been saving for him. Every shift, every dollar. Working nights under another name. Asking strangers to donate when I tell his story. That money in the bag? It's not stolen. It's hope. $30,000 so far. Enough to reserve his surgery window." Cena's chest tightened. He glanced at the notebook she slid across the table. Every entry dated, every dollar recorded, every note marked with messages like "for the music" or "he gave me chills." It was meticulous, honest, selfless. He leaned back, guilt washing over him. He had doubted her, believed the whispers, and now here she was, fighting not for herself, but for someone the world had forgotten. Lena's voice cracked as she whispered, "I didn't tell anyone because he doesn't want charity. And honestly, who would believe me?" For the first time, Cena was speechless. He stared at the photo again. Miles, saxophone in hand. Something about that smile tugged at a memory buried deep inside him. A family barbecue. A laugh he hadn't heard since he was a boy. Cena's throat went dry. "Wait," he whispered. "I know him." John Cena's eyes stayed locked on the photograph in his hands. The man with the saxophone. The grin. The posture. Memories began to stir. Memories he thought were long buried. He spoke slowly, almost to himself. "Wait, this isn't just Miles." Lena frowned. "What do you mean?" Cena's voice trembled. "That man, I've seen him before. Years ago. At family gatherings. At cookouts. He used to play music. Real music. His name isn't Miles Bennett." He paused, heart hammering. "His real name is Raymond Weston. My uncle." The room fell silent. Lena's breath caught. "Your uncle?" Cena nodded, lowering himself into the chair as if the air had suddenly grown heavy. "Yeah, my dad's younger brother. He was the life of every family party." Saxophone slung over his shoulder, always with a joke, always with a story. "When I was just a kid, I looked up to him. But," Cena's jaw tightened, "there were problems. Addiction, money gone missing, pills. One Christmas, my dad told him to leave. Said he wasn't family anymore. A year later, we were told he'd overdosed. That he was gone." He ran a hand over his face, disbelief flooding him. "All these years, I thought he was dead. But he's been here, right under my nose. On the streets, playing for change." Lena sat slowly, her expression softening. "John, I don't think he ever stopped being family. He just got lost. And I found him when nobody else cared." Cena's chest ached. For years, he'd been celebrated as a hero inside the ring. Yet here was his own blood, Forgotten, broken, left behind. Lena touched his wrist gently. You didn't know. None of this is your fault. But Cena shook his head. No! I should have asked questions. I should have searched. I should have. He stopped himself, swallowing hard. Silence hung in the room, thick with regret, shame, and something else, resolve. Finally, Lena spoke. Do you want to see him? Cena looked up, his voice low. He wouldn't recognize me after all this time. Maybe not, she said softly. But you'll recognize him. He's at St. Martin's shelter most Thursday nights. That's when the good volunteers come. He trusts them. Cena's fists clenched, not in anger, but in determination. Then take me there. If he's still out there, if he's still alive, I won't let him be forgotten again. For the first time in weeks, Cena's mission shifted. He wasn't just undercover to watch his employees anymore. He was about to face a ghost from his past, a man the world, and his own family, believed was gone. And deep down, Cena knew. Backhand index pointing right, this wasn't just Lena's fight anymore. Backhand index pointing right, this was his fight too. The message was taped to the break room door. All staff meeting. 7 a.m. sharp. Dining area. Most of the workers assumed it was about health inspections, or maybe new rules. Big Joe muttered about losing sleep. Cal pocketed sugar packets like always. Rhonda chewed her gum hard, annoyed at the early call. Lena walked in quietly, her black pouch tucked away, her face unreadable. She slipped into a corner chair, keeping her head down. She didn't know this meeting wasn't about her. It was about everything. At exactly 7 o'clock, the office door opened, and out walked John Cena. Not Rick, the line cook in a grease-stained apron. Not the quiet guy who burned toast and scrubbed pans. He wore clean jeans, a dark shirt, no disguise, just John Cena, standing tall in the morning light. The room fell silent. Rhonda's jaw dropped. Cal coughed, nearly choking. Big Joe dropped a spatula with a loud clank. Good morning, Cena said, his voice steady but commanding. I know this is early, but I needed you all here, together. He looked each of them in the eye before continuing. For the last month, you've known me as Rick, but that's not my real name. My real name is John Cena, and I'm not just another worker here. I'm the owner of this diner. Gasps rippled across the room. Disbelief. Shock. Whispers. Cena raised a hand, quieting them. I came here undercover because I didn't want to just run a business from the top. I wanted to see who you really are when no one is watching. What I found was complicated, hard-working people, but also corners being cut and trust being broken. He paused, his gaze locking on Rhonda. I found someone sneaking her son in at night to steal tips from the server drawers. Rhonda froze, her face flushing red. The room stirred. Cena didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. We installed a test camera 2 weeks ago. I've seen the footage. I know it was Kevin, and I know you covered for him. Her shoulders slumped. No denial, just silence. But Cena wasn't finished. He turned toward the back corner, toward Lena, and I found something else, something bigger. For weeks, some of you have been whispering about Lena, her notebook, her late-night calls, her bag of cash. Lena stiffened, eyes wide. I'll be honest, Cena continued. I had doubts too. I wondered if she was stealing. I wondered if she was lying. But then, I found the truth. He pulled a small black notebook from his pocket. This is every single dollar Lena Cruz has raised. Not for herself, not for greed, but for a man whose life was burned away and forgotten. A man who once played music that filled entire rooms, and now lives with scars no one should carry alone. He handed the notebook to Big Joe. The cook flipped through page after page. Entries neatly written, names, amounts, notes of donations. His gruff face softened. This is real, Big Joe muttered, almost to himself. Cena nodded. The whispers were wrong. She wasn't stealing. She was saving someone's life. And that man is not just anyone. His name is Raymond Weston. He's my uncle. The staff gasped. Lena's hand flew to her mouth, tears welling. She hadn't known this part. Yes, Cena said firmly. We thought he was dead. But he isn't. He's alive. And thanks to Lena, he still has a chance. Starting today, I'm matching every single dollar she raised. Together, we're covering the full cost of his surgeries. And more than that, we're starting something new. He took a deep breath, his voice ringing with conviction. A foundation. A fund for second chances. For people like Raymond. For anyone the world gave up on. And Lena Cruz, he turned to her, his eyes warm. You're going to run it. Effective immediately. You're promoted to Community Outreach Director. Full salary, benefits, and an office that's not a storage closet. For a moment, Lena just sat there, stunned, her hands trembling. The room was silent. Then Big Joe started clapping. Cal joined. Even Rhonda, red-faced and ashamed, added a soft clap. Within seconds, the room erupted in applause. Lena stood slowly, tears streaming down her cheeks. I don't know what to say. Say yes, Big Joe called out. And she did. That morning, the diner wasn't just a business anymore. It was a place reborn. The surgery was a risk. Doctors warned that scar tissue this old could be stubborn. Nerves might not recover, and music might never return to those burned hands. But weeks later, when Raymond Weston, Miles to Lena, Uncle Ray to John, lifted his bandaged fingers and pressed them gently against the keys of his battered saxophone, a sound filled the hospital courtyard. Soft trembling, but real. Cena sat beside him, hands folded, eyes locked on his uncle. For the first time in decades, he wasn't the WWE superstar, the celebrity, the boss. He was just a nephew listening to family. Tears threatened at the edges of his vision as Raymond whispered, "You didn't have to do this, John." Cena pulled a faded family photo from his pocket, the one his grandmother had kept. For people by a lake. A saxophone slung over Raymond's shoulder. On the back, scrawled in fading ink, "Raymond, don't give up. You were born for more." Cena placed it in his uncle's hands. "We thought you were gone, but you're here, and you're not forgotten anymore." Raymond's eyes shimmered with emotion. For the first time in years, his smile returned. Not the grin of a performer, but the smile of a man given a second chance. Weeks later, the diner was unrecognizable. The walls once covered with faded photos of pancakes now displayed framed thank you letters from families helped by the new fund that a glass jar sat proudly by the register with gold marker written across it. Miles's music lives on. Big Joe added a new menu item, Ray's Revival Reuben, and it instantly became the diner's most ordered dish. And in the corner booth, where lonely customers once sat in silence, now stood the community table. A place where no one ate alone unless they chose to. Every night, Raymond played again. The notes weren't perfect, but they carried something stronger than perfection. Survival, soul, testimony. The diner would fall quiet, customers pausing mid-bite just to listen. Lena, now officially the head of the Second Chance Project, worked tirelessly, her black pouch replaced by an office full of paperwork and dreams for the future. And Cena? He stayed in the background, not as a star, but as a leader, making sure the foundation had everything it needed to grow. One evening, as the sun dipped low and the smell of grilled cheese filled the air, Cena stood near the register. A little girl tugged at her father's sleeve, pointing at Raymond's saxophone. "Daddy, is he famous?" she asked. Raymond chuckled, his voice raspy but proud. "I used to be broken. Now, I'm just loud." The room erupted in laughter, warm and real. Cena smiled, his heart full. This wasn't just a diner anymore. It was hope on a plate. Music in the walls. A second chance served fresh every day. He looked straight ahead, his voice firm, almost like he was speaking to every soul watching this story unfold. Backhand index pointing right. Never give up isn't just a motto. It's a promise. A promise that no matter how lost, how broken, or how forgotten someone feels, there's always a way back. Always a second chance. High voltage final call to action for YouTube audience. If you believe in second chances, if you believe in hope, then you're already part of this story. Smash that like button, subscribe for more John Cena stories, and tell us in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? Because sometimes, the quietest people carry the loudest hope.